Now I'm ready to start rocking. I've got my plate lined up on my shelf liner in the first orientation, vertical orientation. And I'm going to start at the edge and rock back and forth across the plate. Trying to make sure that my wrist is locked in position and all of the movement is from my elbow. I like to put some padding underneath my elbow too to make sure that I'm not causing any problems. That's one direction. I'm going to overlap that, continue with the same direction. And so on. This is the finished rocked plate, which is totally pitted, and you can't see any light shining off the surface anymore. This will hold solid black ink. At this point, you can start to make the image, and that is done by using a burnisher or a scraper and flattening that burr back down to a smooth surface.
The scraping with the burnisher, the scraper, this is the burnisher, pushes down the copper, and here's a ballpoint one, that's also a burnisher. So this kind of like a ball has a tip, so it's finer and more controllable than this surface area. If you look at it, it's a larger surface area compared to this tip. So if I were to touch the plate, the tip is just a finer point, rather than if you're using this burnisher. So how did I do that? Oops. It's kind of a larger area. So you'll see once you play around what those tools can do for you. So the first thing is to then now scrape away what you just created, right? To create highlights. So this is not really for highlights out. And I'll look at an angle. So I'm doing it just in one direction. Lightly. And you can see the powder of the copper plate. Coming off. So I just want to get her whole, like a general, kind of just generally scraping off an even amount, the same amount all over. So I kind of missed this side corner, the side. So I'm gonna get everything kind of methodically. We're actually just drawing the highlights in, drawing or scraping the grays out. And once you have the grays or middle tones scraped, then you'll like print it and then see, okay, what do I want lighter? And then you'll scrape those areas out lighter. So I'm not gonna do this her whole face, but you can see that as I'm doing this, there's a lot of this powder that's forming. The copper powder, it's just copper. If you have a little bit of baby oil, some baby oil, or a little bit of vegetable oil, or if do you have maybe WD-40 to kind of unsqueak the doors. You could spray a little bit on a surface. I just have a little scrap of plastic plexi or acrylic, and I just put in a little bit, I just put a little tiny bit of oil just as a lubrication. I mean, you could put it on the plate, but sometimes it becomes too oily, but all you need is just a little bit in an area that you want to burnish. So this pushes down, scraping removes the material, and so the pits are shallower, so hold less ink. When you take the burnisher, using the same kind of methodology, it's too much oil. Because I can't see, you just need a little bit to So you can see the graphite is kind of smearing a little bit. So that's why I would scrape and get the image on the surface before you go on to burnishing. So this burnisher, this is rusted, but this is the same tools that you have in your tool bag, but you gotta make sure that the water doesn't get on the tools. So I'm just using a little bit of pressure and using this sort of edge here to push down on the copper. And so pushing it down will flatten the surface a little bit. So I don't know if you can see that. So there's enough oil there, but you can see that the texture is changing. Same as drawing, I maybe will go in a direction that looks like the texture of her face, so in a contour or hatching in a certain direction, and then a different direction. So I'm just adding a little bit of oil because there's not enough lubrication on this side. That is what this plate is going to look like on your plate. So copper oxidizes, and it becomes oxidizes with the oils, or it oxidizes with air, water, and the oils of your skin. So, but this was oxidized a while ago. It won't disturb the printed image, but it just might be distracting. This is just, your plate is cleaner, but this is what happens after the plate if it sits in air over time, or even turns green with moisture in the air. So let me work on that, and I'll show you a proof. But basically that's how you use these tools. So the scraper scrapes away the pits and lowers the pits, so less ink will go in. The burnisher will push down the copper plate, so it'll hold less ink and make it smoother, right? And this too, you can use this as a drawing tool or highlighting tool. But I would do that after I scrape the middle tones into her face, or whatever you're doing. So scrape away what would generally just kind of a gray middle tone, create highlights to make sure you can see the different tones that you want on the plate. So you can, if you just don't look at the black marks of the graphite, you can see my eyebrow should be scraped more. This whole area should be more defined. So cleaning, you need to clean off the plate of the oils, whether it's vegetable oil, WD-40, or the baby oil. You could just use a little bit of soap and water and dry this off. You can also use alcohol and clean it off, but sometimes the fabric or the paper towels might leave fibers all over the place. But either way, before you print, you want to kind of clean it, but just clean it from just the oils that you've been using. But the graphite could stay, it may be embedded into the plate, so it doesn't really matter too much. It won't affect your black print.